Hi guys, you've probably seen my last video where the mayor of Naples says, we have enough evacuation plans, we don't need a new one. Let's focus on spending about 500 to 700 million euros on seismic upgrades of buildings in the danger zones. So his own volcanologist from the Institute of Italian Volcanology and Seismology, the Vesuvius Observatory that's right there in this area, three of his best scientists are saying we urgently need working evacuation plans because the current ones are not working. We need evacuation plans that are preparing for the worst case scenario because they think this is a likely scenario. And they're also saying even a small eruption in the Naples area at the Campi Flegrei Supervolcano will be devastating for Naples. So the most crucial thing is don't put Band-Aid on the thing by upgrading the buildings. Yes, got to do that too. But if you can't evacuate the people, it doesn't matter what's happening to the buildings, right? Of course, upgrading the buildings that they don't collapse when an earthquake swarm is hitting the area is of course important at the major escape routes. So first you have to define where are the major and working escape routes and then upgrade these buildings first. But the scientists are saying you need to prepare to use the water, the ports, as a potential evacuation route as well. There's still the danger that Campi Flegrei could erupt in the sea because it stretches into the sea and then it will send a 100 feet or 30-meter tsunami wave towards Naples, also not good. So now we know a few days later, after the rumbling, after all these seismic events with the 4.4 magnitude earthquake that was the biggest that they had in that area, residents are reporting and also officials are reporting, well, how did that go with helping the residents if the mayor thinks all evacuation plans are so great? Well, it seems Pozzuoli couldn't even handle these earthquakes. In light of what the scientists are saying, they have to prepare for even bigger ones. So I'll tell you now what happened and what was dysfunctional in the town. And the funny thing is, they had planned, I don't know if that's still on schedule, but before these earthquake swarms started, they were planning to do an emergency drill at the end of May, May 30th, 31st. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So they really need to step up their game. I think they cannot afford to put their heads in the sand. And I have a feeling that the residents are realizing this faster than the officials. The real estate market is basically non-existent in these areas. It's come to a complete halt. Those who were intending to buy, they're trying to back out of the deals. Of course, right? That makes sense. And it's sad for the residents that would like to leave. But some have already left. We'll talk about this. But what has happened during these earthquakes and shortly after the earthquakes? How were people assisted and how were they helped by the authorities, by the civil defense, by the fire department, by the police? Were they helped? Let's hear. What people are taking away from this incident, what has happened after the earthquake swarms hit the town, is that there was a complete lack of institutional management. And we'll look into this, what people were saying. They were complaining there were no tents. There were only 10 technicians at the municipality for over 1,500 requests, probably more, came in by the hours to conduct checks on buildings, whether they were safe to go back into the buildings. There was chaos in the assistance machine overall to help the population. And there was already, as many are saying, this was already the first demonstration how it would really go if there had been first victims of earthquakes, people injured, buildings collapsed. And this is how it goes. This is how prepared they are. And it's kind of scary. So days after this 4.4 magnitude earthquake and the following stronger earthquakes that have happened in the Campi Flegrei area, basically underneath, the epicenter was underneath the active Solfatara area, basically very, very close, we're almost in the town of Pozzuoli. So they were starting to make the first assessments, and not only of the damaged buildings, because there were quite a few, but they also need to make assessments of what worked and what did not. And there was quite a lot that did not work. And in light of that, the scientists are saying that they have to expect even stronger earthquakes of magnitude 5. If they're that little prepared, if there's a tremor of magnitude 5 following after these swarms, and then we have more problems in the town. This is what they have, and that's not good. So how did this all go down? Those who have been in the field, who have been working with the residents, they're saying that from the night of the tremors until today, they have noticed the clear facts that tell them that the rescue machine did not work perfectly at all. And not only that, not even their control system is working, and much less their reception system for the population. And that's a city of more than 80,000 inhabitants right in the core of Pozzuoli, and 500,000 in the greater Pozzuoli area. And they had to deal with 1,500 to 100 to 2,000 requests to check damaged buildings. People wanted them checked to see if can I go back? Can I go to sleep? Where should I go? I'm standing out here in the street with a pajama and my dog, right? Basically. Some had children, small children that are getting like cranky, right? And there were already like almost 100 buildings declared uninhabitable, and there were families displaced, but they weren't dealt with properly. That's what they're saying. That's why many people are saying that the emergency management was pathetic. That's how they call it, and it's not up to par. And if you now remember how the mayor is behaving, he's more interested in fixing up the buildings than fixing up the emergency response system or the evacuation plans. And that's the mayor of Naples, of course. That's not the mayor of Pozzuoli, but the mayor of Naples has said that after these incidents, right? So he says basically we have enough evacuation plans. Yeah, but the problem is his own scientists of the Italian Institute of Volcanology and Geology are telling him urgent. We need new and updated evacuation plans that are actually working, because the ones we're having, they're not working. But the mayor is like, no, we have enough of them. Doesn't matter. We need to fix up buildings up to seismic codes. Well, I would suggest make an evacuation plan and figure out where your main evacuation routes are, and then fix up these buildings so that they won't collapse and block the roads. That makes sense, but not just randomly. And that's why Pozzuoli has a safety committee. And the chairman of this committee has said, quote, if the scientific bodies warn you that an earthquake of up to 4.5 or higher can arrive, a normal prevention would involve taking at least 10 cases of water, 20 tents, and 2 firefighters, and make them available to the city on a permanent basis. So that would be just the minimum. And he says, but when even this is not done, it means that the command is not up to the task of the situation. It was pathetic management. That is what he says. And of course, there's photographs and videos about what has happened hours after the earthquakes. And I have to say, I think they're right. They have set up waiting areas for the residents. As you see here in the pictures, it's basically just some garden tents and a few plastic chairs there. I don't see any beverages, food, or anything. I don't see anybody there, right? And that's what they're criticizing. They're saying they did set up these waiting areas during the night, and then there was practically no one. Neither traffic police nor civil protection or any other public figure. And then people took matter in their own hands, right? They were running on the streets after the earthquakes, and then they did gather immediately. They were standing together trying to exchange information, but then they were standing there for hours and they didn't see anyone. And now in light of this, there's a video of when a civil defense car allegedly gets attacked by the residents. The situation was the following. People were standing around and they were waiting for someone to tell them, do we have to expect more earthquakes? What's the situation? Because the officials do have contact to the Vesuvius Observatory, to the INGV measuring station. So what's going on? Can we go back to sleep? Are our homes safe? What to expect? So it seems like a lonely civil defense guy was driving down the road. It doesn't seem like that he wanted to stop and talk to the residents, but as they're Italian, and I love that, they took matter in their own hands and they stopped him. And that's what you see in the video. They were like, hey, what's going on? Just tell us something. Where's the mayor? So they were upset, and I don't blame them because it was really hours later. And citizens said they were terrified. They didn't want to assault him, but they were terrified. They wanted information. And they were angry. Where's the mayor? No public statement, nothing. And overall, since these incidents happened, and that's what people are criticizing, is that the mayor, Luigi Manzoni, has been seen very little these days. They would even say almost never. And that's kind of strange. The night of the earthquake, he did hold a press conference the following day, but he didn't conduct any meetings in the city. There are no documented visits to these 5 tent areas that they have set up in the port area and in some areas. So he didn't go there. He didn't talk to the people. And of course, as it always is, and especially with the Italians, he was the first access point of the anger of the citizens. And then, yeah, they did put up the first tent area around 1 a.m. But on the next day, it was totally clear that there were not enough tents. In one area, they put up a road blockade, a small road blockade for displaced people because they didn't even have toilets, like porta potties or something. So they just put these tents there that you see. They're basically waiting areas, like a garden shade tent, nothing really like stable, and some plastic chairs. I don't see any food supply or drinks or water or anything. And they told, well, people can't sleep there. It's just for gathering. Well, you can do this with your neighbors on your street and sit in your car. So there's people with young children that get cranky, old people, sick people. It's not ideal, right? But one thing that people notice when they're walking around or driving around Pozzuoli these days, so a few days after the incident, is that they call it a phenomenon. The city is empty. There's no traffic. So why is that? They think the city did empty out. The residents did take matters in their own hands, so they left. So they say the Great Escape did already take place on the night of May 20th when the big one hit. So there were entire families with their dogs, with their cats in tow, leaving the city. And where did they go? Some did go to relatives, some did go to bed and breakfast, and some have even left the whole area of Naples, the whole province. And I think they're smart to do that. And I hope they have the financial means or the places, relatives, that they could stay there. Because right now it's high uncertainty of what is going to happen. And the leading scientists are not giving us great hope that nothing is going to happen. Watch my last video that I have released. There I'll tell you what all these scientists, the Italian scientists, volcanologists that work for the Italian Institute of Volcanology and Seismology are saying. Those are the guys that are there every day monitoring Campi Flegrei. Problem is, there's people in Pozzuoli who cannot afford to pay a bed and breakfast or can spend who knows how many days in an accommodation facility in tents. So there's those people who don't have a car that they could sleep in. One lawyer gave an interview to the Italian newspaper fan page, and he said there are two elderly displaced people. They're sleeping in a room on the ground floor of a building with mattresses on the floor. Then the lawyer further says, I was moved by tenderness. I called the civil protection to ask if it was possible to put up tents in the newly renovated sports field. And then after calling around 1,000 times and being passed on to someone else, they said that there are no tents available that they could put up. They don't have any more tents. Bad luck. And that now we don't even have a higher earthquake where there's injured people or more displaced people with collapsed buildings. And then further, they're saying that in these reception areas, these tents with the white chairs, it is impossible to find even the simple things that you would never imagine that they wouldn't be there in these areas, that the civil protection or the authorities wouldn't put them there, such as like sockets for charging cell phones or devices and like water. Simple water. Services that would only be activated in the event of an orange alert. And it is precisely this dynamic that makes us understand the inadequacy of the plans that they have prepared, of their emergency plans. And that's what the scientists are saying. So this was just a little thing compared to what they might be facing. And they're already failing here. So that's scary. That's why people are so upset. So they're saying, how is it possible to imagine a post-earthquake scenario on yellow alert with hundreds of displaced people, tents in the streets, and not even the distribution of water? Yeah, it's that. I don't know. It speaks for itself. I don't need to comment on that. They say that the regional civil protection machinery probably needs to be adjusted. Yeah, I would say so. Then they said there was this situation that there were people, although the houses have been declared uninhabitable, unsafe, do not go in there, they have been taped off. There were people that did ignore the barriers. They did go to their homes, probably to take personal belongings, but they did go into structures that were declared unsafe and unusable and therefore dangerous, right? And a lot of people are saying the fact that this can happen, as we have seen it did happen multiple times in recent days, certifies the absence of controls on the streets. And they're saying, basically, they're calling them heroic, the traffic police of Pozzuoli. They say they were practically the only ones, except a few, that were on the streets 24 hours a day after the earthquakes happened. They're saying there was no other support. And they're saying, well, isn't it legitimate to ask how it is possible that in an emergency situation, that it is beyond any reasonable doubt that there were some soldiers in the area around the port area of Pozzuoli. But how is it possible that the military doesn't send any engineers who could be of support, maybe to assess the homes or stuff like this? So yes, I think these are legitimate questions that they're asking. So not a good situation for Pozzuoli. And then of course there's reports, there's the realtors as always. Guys, I'm not a fan of realtors. I know a few that are really good, but overall they're just caring about their business. So there are some reports of realtors that are saying, yeah, the market in Pozzuoli has come to a halt. And yeah, who's surprised, right? And even around Pozzuoli, they're saying sellers are left in limbo because the buyers are trying to back out and there's basically no more new buyers coming in. Of course, this is tragic for the people who want to leave, but you know, this area should be emptied out anyway, so new people buying and moving there would not change the issue anyways, right? And then the realtors are saying, yeah, but this will just wait a few days or a few weeks, this will flow over, people will come back. And that's what they're telling their clients. It's like, it's not so tragic. This has always been here, this is nothing bad. So they're putting their heads in the sands. People are always saying, well, this has never happened to us. No, this will not happen to our area. But it is happening in other areas around the world, and then eventually it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it will happen in your area too. Some members of parliament are also saying there are not enough firefighters in the area, and that the amount of firefighters needs to be increased. And this is a question that they're raising to the government. So there are not enough firefighters to deal with the emergency situation at Campi Flegrei. So this is also concerning. I mean, only concerning if there's an earthquake scenario. We have to be honest, guys. If there's a volcanic eruption, there will not be a Pozzuoli anymore. There will probably not be a Naples anymore. And sadly as it is, there will not be any more firefighters that are from this area, that are stationed in this area. So this is for the seismic events. So they want more personnel to deal with the current, they call it bradyseism crisis. Bradyseism, the land underneath Pozzuoli, is rising because of magmatic fluids, maybe magmatic gases, but also maybe because of magma trying to get to the surface and cause an eruption. So about a year ago, the trade unions had already pointed out that there are many risks to this condition that they're dealing with here with this bradyseism. They did provide examples of obvious critical parameters. They're saying like strategic headquarters are located in the territory that is most affected by the seismic events, which is also not good. And it has no longer personnel that belongs to the fire brigade. And it's still unresolved, this issue. Nothing has happened since they have pointed this out. And they're saying it is very, very alarming that at present, the resources that are used in the area, are, when it comes to numbers, it's completely unsatisfactory when they compare it to the requests that they have received from concerned citizens. They're saying the staffing of the Naples command, the staffing of the detachments in the Phlegraean area do not appear to be adequately classified, and they're not equipped with the right number of employees that would be capable of serving such a complex and densely populated reality. So how do they want to organize an evacuation? A working evacuation, not something on paper that sounds good, that you can put a stamp on and tap yourself on the shoulder as an official and saying, yeah, I have my evacuation plan, right? So guys, that was a quick update about the organizational structure after this event and in light of the potential next event. Remember, scientists said more strong earthquakes could be expected, and they said we need to prepare for the worst in terms of a potential eruption as well. And they have pointed out you are not prepared. So let me know what you're thinking. Do you think they're prepared enough, or do you think maybe they're thinking, well, we're all doomed anyways if this thing erupts, so whatever we're doing in terms of evacuation will not work anyways, so why putting too many resources into it? If that's the case, they should really start moving everyone out right now, clearing the area completely. And in my opinion, that's the only solution to that. The British government has given like a travel warning, so to speak, for Italy, making it known to tourists that have bookings in the area so that they're aware of what is going on, which is good. So all we have to do right now is wait and see and hope, I guess. Watch out my other videos. They'll give you a lot of information, what the scientists are saying and what has been going on. Let's not forget that we're waiting for the next eruption in Grindavik that could wipe out the little fishing town of Grindavik in Iceland. So check out my playlists about that. If you're new here, I'd love to see you more often. So please subscribe. And if you guys, if all of you, if you can leave this video a like, that would be great. It helps my channel a lot. So the next update is just around the corner, guys. I'll release it later today if I can get it done until then. And I'll see you very, very soon, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.